Auckland-based education tech business Kami has recently hit 7 million users worldwide. Once a university passion project, the company's well on its way to being an American classroom staple. And joining me now is co-founder and chief executive, Hengjie Wang. Hengjie, thanks so much for coming in. Just first of all, let's just find out what Kami is.
Yeah, Kami is like the new pen and paper. So we help teachers take static documents that they would be maybe printing off or just sending to the kids to complete, and we turn that and make that completely interactive and way more engaging for the kids to complete their work.
So it's a bit like, Google Docs is used, I think, in a lot of education establishments here in New Zealand, so it's a bit like that, but more specific, more sort of directly streamlined for schools.
Yeah, it's like Google Docs, but for schools and education.
And how did it all start?
It started when my founders and I, Olive and Jordan, we were trying to take notes in class, and this is when the iPad was just coming out, and we had spent all our money buying all the latest tech gadgets, and we couldn't find a good note-taking solution. So we built something for ourselves, and it turned out that other people had the same problem.
So this is when you were studying at Auckland Uni here?
Yes.
And at that stage, did you immediately think, hold on, we've found a problem and now we've built a solution to it. This could be something serious?
Yeah, it started becoming serious when people we didn't know, people we hadn't spoken to, started signing up and started emailing us and saying, can we repurpose this tool for my classroom or for something else? And that's when we realized we've got something here that we really should focus on.
And so then you entered it into the Auckland, the annual startup competition that the uni runs.
Yes, the Velocity 100K challenge.
And at that stage, did you find the reception you got gave you the endorsement to say, hold on, we've got to do this now full time?
Yeah, the reception that we received was amazing. And we had a lot of people that we met there, some of the mentors and future investors that really helped us along the path to where we are today. We're in 1 in 7 schools. We're over 7 million users. It's amazing.
Yeah, I want to talk about the size in a moment, but just going back to your relationship, the three of you. So you were mates in uni who sat down and said, all three of us have got a common problem, or did you seek out people who could help you with the areas of the idea which you couldn't do for yourself?
We just met at uni. I met Jordan when we were arguing about our favorite programming language, and he constantly won that argument, and that's sort of how we met. I met Olive through a conference that I organized for a mutual friend. She became part of that team, and afterwards we really just started hanging out, started talking about technology in class and how we could maybe take better notes or study better, and that's sort of how it came together.
Then up comes Kami. So now looking at it, sort of, we're talking sort of 6 years later or something. How you're all still fully involved in the business?
Yes.
And how are your relationships now? Have you managed to sort of divvy up the roles?
Yeah, the roles have been divvied up. It all sort of fell naturally. There was always one person like Jordan who was way better at programming and tech than any of us. And someone like Olive who loves marketing and loves operations, knew a huge amount about how to push the word of mouth out to different people. And so she runs our operations and marketing. And I'm naturally became the CEO, I guess. I had to do everything else.
Yes.
So I spoke to investors, I raised capital. I still, early on, wrote a lot of the code for the app. And that's also where we met our mentor, who's now our Chief Revenue Officer, Bob Drummond.
Right, now Bob was one of the judges in that competition I mentioned at uni.
Yes.
And so he was obviously impressed at the time. Did he then sort of say to you afterwards, guys, this is incredible, you now need somebody like me to sort of guide you through it? Or did you at that stage say to him, give us a hand?
I think he saw something in us. He saw 3 really scrappy people trying to build a product together, trying to solve a problem that they had themselves. And we had traction. And that, I think, was something that a lot of other startups at the time didn't have. 90% of startups fail within the first year. And we were one of those few that were trying to get users. We had lots of people who were really passionate about what we were doing, that were trying to repurpose it for other things, like in their classroom or lawyers using it. And this is back when we didn't even have a log out button or forget my password. It was super early, and that sort of love for the product, I think, won him over.
So Bob sort of plays a business mentor role as well as being involved in the business itself.
Initially, Bob was a business mentor, and then he helped us get investors on board, like David Russell or Flying Kiwis. And afterwards, after a while, he became our chief revenue officer and started working for us full time when it really had legs and we were doing a lot of sales. He really helped and came in and ramped up all of our metrics.
How difficult, or easy, I guess what I'm going to ask you is, how does it alter things having three of you? Because it's quite rare to find three founders of a company like this.
It's not too difficult for us. We have always been friends first before we founded Cami. We always hung out with each other, watched movies, studied together. So it doesn't feel like work. We still sit with each other as a team. There's three of us that sit in a circle today at our office, and we always talk to each other every day.
When did you realise it was time for external investment?
When we saw the amount of people who loved our product, but we knew that to get to a much larger audience, to a much larger scale, we really had to get external investment on board. And when we realized that there were much smarter people out there that can advise us on areas that we just had no idea about. We were fresh out of uni, so we really needed a lot of people to help us along the way and mentor us.
So you were very much guided by the people and the skills they could bring rather than just the money that they put in.
Oh, absolutely. It's always been about smart money for us to bring into Cami.
What did you think when you saw how phenomenally successful, how phenomenally oversubscribed in January it was?
I think it was an overwhelming sense of, I want to say accomplishment, but it was just, yes, we're at some point where I think we can definitely raise more capital in the future to fuel our growth, but getting to a certain stage where we can now refocus back on the business, refocus back on our growth and our customers, that was really important. So once we became oversubscribed, we cut it off and we just focused back on our user base and the product.
Were you surprised how easily you attracted investment?
We weren't. I think we were really surprised, yes.
Yeah.
I think there were a lot of sense of, it's always difficult to raise capital, especially being an international product out of New Zealand. So you always have to look for capital everywhere you can find it. And we were very lucky to have found investment both here in New Zealand, but also abroad in the US and Australia. And that, it's amazing to have such breadth of people.
And it's obviously allowing you, as you say, for your growth plans. US being your main market, I mean, how difficult is it to focus on the American market while you're based here in New Zealand?
There are some challenges to focusing on the American market. The first big one is just time zone differences. So we have to get up really early in the morning. I get up at around 4 a.m. Olive gets up in the same time. Our team is very similar. We have started to hire people locally in the US, and that has helped a lot. It's meant that we can't always fly to our customers, so we have to make the most out of every single trip that we make to the US, and it means going and visiting as many schools and talking to as many people as we can. And compared to, I think, many other startups who are based in the US, they would otherwise not sort of value that trip as much and try and make as much out of that trip.
So it could potentially be a bit of an advantage, the fact that there's a bit of distance from your clients. They'll see how much you invest in them when you're there.
Yeah, absolutely. And they also love our accent, so It really helps.
Committed to New Zealand, though, to staying?
Absolutely committed to New Zealand and growing the business out of New Zealand, yes.
Do you have an end game and plan? Have the three of you sat down and said, when do we stop? When do we? I mean, do you ever have those conversations?
We have, and the way we see Cami growing and the sort of love for the product, we want to continue growing this business into a billion-dollar business out of New Zealand. We think that there's a huge potential in the market right now for something like Cami, a digital annotation platform, to take on the sort of printing budgets out there that's gone to a lot of waste. There's also huge environmental impacts that we're helping with by just reducing paper and printing, and also the time savings that come out of it. So there's a huge market globally for something like what we do, and I think we just want to keep growing this.
Just keep growing it. Very quickly, Cami, the name, Kami.
Kami means paper in Japanese.
Fantastic, as simple as that. Great to meet you. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.